Welcome back to Let's Play Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, Justice for All. I'm the Adrian 64D, and I'm pretty sure we just pinned this whole murder on Adrian Andrews. Dude, I can't believe that Adrian... No way! Not cool and collected Adrian Andrews! She's your manager. It would have been very easy for her to pull this off. The only person who had easy access to the knife and used it at dinner was, well, her. So after the ceremony, during the break, huh? I was sleeping like a log the entire time. See, she could have also easily planted that blood-covered button under her comma. Because she was the one that came to wake me up? Then, dude, you're saying it really was her? Yes, she's the real killer. She was the one who murdered Juan Corda. But why? I thought she was buds with Juan. She has her own agenda. Her own agenda? What are you talking about? I'm sure you'll see by the time this trial's over. It'll be alright. You'll get your acquittal by the end of today. Get me a verdict that's refreshing like a spring breeze, okay, Mr. Lawyer Dude? Phoenix, you think her motive is related to Celeste Impact's missing suicide note, right? Yes. Miss Andrews depended on Miss Impacts for a life and will to live. But then Miss Impact suddenly killed herself. It sounds like she left a suicide note, and the person thought to have hidden it is Juan Corda, the victim of this murder. And that's why I think Miss Andrews got close to Mr. Corda. All to get the suicide note back. That sounds plausible. But one thing bothers me. What? Who was it that first told us about the relationship? Better stated, Mr. Andrews' codependency in regards to Miss Impacts. Mr. Andrews? It was Edgeworth. It looks like he's still the one in command of the ship. Don't let your guard down yet. Could he really given us faulty info? Wait a second. But that would help his case. Court will now reconvene. Now then, Mr. Edgeworth, if you please. The prosecution calls the witness subpoenaed by this court. Miss Adrian Andrews, the person who discovered the crime of Mr. Juan Corda's room. What is your occupation? I'm the manager of the defendant in this case, Mr. Matt Ungard. I see. Now then. Before we begin, Your Honor, I have one request. Yes, sure. What is it? I'm sure everyone in this room is wondering the same thing, and would love to find out more about my relationship with the victim. After all, it was the topic of a certain weekly magazine recently. No, I have no idea what you mean. I've never even heard of Gossipland. If the judge was ever a prosecution witness, he'd do all my work for me. Anyway, I was wondering if you could please tell us about your relation to the victim. Yes, I was seeing Mr. Corda. I was also aware of the rivalry that existed between Matt and Juan. But this was a private matter between Juan and myself. So it was a fry and bait matter. Or was it a bait and fry? Why was it fishing? But I didn't kill him. No one has accused you of that. I've got a feeling someone will soon. I think we all understand your relationship with the victim now, Miss Andrews. Very well then. Witness, please testify to the court about what happened when you discovered the murder that had taken place. Right when I found the body? It was time for the show to start, so I went to get Matt from his room. After that, I went to Juan's room. And there was his dead body. I was in shock. What I saw was, naturally, the exact same scene in the crime scene photo. I felt as though I was about to faint, so I poured myself a glass of juice. You poured yourself a glass of juice? Yes. Sadly, I didn't remember not to touch things on the scene of a crime. I disturbed the crime scene by moving this one thing. And that is when the fingerprints on the wine glass were made, Your Honor. I see. Well, Mr. Wright, you may cross-examine the witness. Phoenix, She is one cool and collected customer, and she has the brains to match. Yeah, I know. In order to catch a person like her, you have to avoid head-on confrontations. You should disrupt her pace. Disrupt her pace? She's the type of woman who is easily thrown off by things inconsistent with her thinking, so you have to attack when she least expects it. The instant you let up on her offense is the instant this trial is over. Understand? Alright. See how we can trip her up. It was time for the show to start, so I went to get Matt from his room. And what was Mr. On Guard doing at the time? He was taking a nap. He was worn out from his mini performance as the Nickel Samurai during the ceremony. Mr. On Guard did say he was taking a nap. Then I guess you could say it could not have been taken out of his room. Yes? Excuse me? What are you... Right, I thought years of school would have taught you how to construct a sentence. If you can't make a sensible sentence with a subject, then I'll make one for you. Watch. Did you, Miss Andrews, remove Mr. On Guard's knife from his room? No. Subject, verb, object, right. Did you skip basic grammar? The witness may continue. After that, I went to Juan's room. Wow, sassy Edgeworth. And why did you do that? As a friendly gesture, Juan was to make an appearance with the other heroes. So the show was supposed to be a show of friendship, huh? Let's go end this a little more. Is that the only reason? I beg your pardon? What are you implying? You had a certain goal in mind when you started to get close to him, correct? So perhaps you had a more personal matter to discuss with the victim? Sorry, but I didn't have any such intentions in mind at the time. Can't get her to talk without a strong piece of evidence, I guess. May we continue now? Witness, what did you see when you got to his room? And there was his dead body. I was shocked. I was in shock. You were in shock? What? Was I not supposed to be? Miss Andrews is a very calculating person. And despite how close they were, I doubt she had romantic feelings for Mr. Corda. Anyone randomly stumbling upon a dead body would be in shock. And you can't seriously expect that a young beauty like her would not be shocked. Somehow, I don't think beauty has anything to do with being shocked or not. I see. What I saw was, naturally, the exact same scene in the crime scene photo. Hang on. This is the photo you're referring to, correct? Yes, the one with the knife lodged in his chest. And the guitar case was like this too? Yes, it was open and empty, of course. And then, what did you do next, witness? I felt as though I was about to faint, so I poured myself a glass of juice. Really? Juice? Yes, there was a bottle of tomato juice on the table, so I helped myself. But you didn't drink any of it, did you? Uh-huh. There was no lip marks left on the wine glass to suggest that anyone drank from it. I wasn't feeling terribly great, so I set the glass down, without drinking it. Miss Andrews, I would like to confirm with you one more time. When you discovered the dead body of Juan Corda, you were in great shock. And that's when you poured yourself the glass of juice, correct? And what of it? My mind really was a complete blank at the time. Your mind was a complete blank? I didn't think that was possible for you. Aren't you rude today? I was so dazed that I made one careless mistake. That one thing. What one thing? Never mind. It's no big deal. What was she starting to say just now? Let's pursue this. Miss Andrews, I'm convinced that, as you said, you made a mistake at the scene of the crime. What I really want to know is what this mistake was. Actually, so would I. I'm sorry. It's kind of embarrassing. When I set the glass down on the dresser, I accidentally knocked the flower vase over. Really? A flower vase? Are you talking about the one on the floor, the crimes photo? This mess of glass shards? It was originally on top of the dresser, but when I bumped into it with my elbow, it fell onto the guitar case. Why did you withhold such an important piece of information? I'm sorry. I thought that since the crime scene was already in disarray, that people wouldn't simply assume the vase was just another part of the mess. It looks like yet another fact has come to light here. Please add this in anything else you have to reveal in your testimony. I'm sorry, but I have nothing more to add. I didn't touch anything else. I was the one who knocked the flower vase over, where it fell into the guitar case. Hang on. What kind of flower vase was it? It was a glass vase, and it was fairly big and heavy. I thought I would try to take one's pulse, so I set the glass that I was holding on the dresser, and that's when my elbow accidentally hit the vase. That's odd. I thought she was always in total control of herself. That's what she would like people to think. Always be mindful of the gap between perception and reality. It doesn't sound like there's any glaring contradictions in her testimony just now. I warned you earlier that she would not crack so easily. The only way to make her is to keep on the offensive and never let up. The only way you're going to catch her is with some very strong, decisive evidence. I have to find something. I just have to. For Maya's sake. There actually is one thing I would like to point out. I don't believe it was the exact same thing that she saw in the crime photo. Let's look at this crime photo once more. Crime photo. There it is. Here's what it looks like, right? Okay, she set the glass down. Let's forget about the glass right now. The vase is what she brought up in her testimony. But her testimony, let us look at the guitar case. There's water, but only on the lid of the guitar case. If this were true, then who knocked over the vase? Take that! Objection! You testified that you knocked the flower vase over. Is this correct? Yes. And are you sure it fell into the guitar case? Is there some problem with what I said? It's not some problem. It's a major problem. It's true that the top of the guitar case was wet with water. However, that's exactly what's so strange. Miss Andrews, you testified that the vase fell onto the guitar case. However, if that was true, the case would have gotten wet from the inside, not the outside. That's very true. Furthermore, there's one more strange thing about the guitar case. What is that? Let's take another look at the crime scene photo. The remains of the vase are scattered on the floor. And what's wrong with that? If the guitar case was open and the vase fell, the glass shards should have been inside, not outside the case. What is your point, Wright? That the case was closed at the time the vase was knocked over? Is that all? No, think back to when Miss Andrews testified to. She said that other than the vase, she didn't touch anything else. Yes, that's right. She did implicitly say she didn't touch the guitar case. But this whole matter of the guitar case is a dead end. The bright red guitar is found at the studio. It has no bearing on this case at all. That may very well be. However, an empty guitar case does seem to have no relation to this case. Seems there are no deeper meanings to this guitar case. Well, Mr. Wright, do you think we need to hear more details about the guitar case? Yes, I do! The empty guitar case. I believe there's a crucial piece of this puzzle. I can't believe anyone would reach for straws like this. But it is you. I can't believe I'm doing this either. Alright, I'll follow along. For now. Miss Andrews, please testify to the court about the guitar case. Yes, Your Honor. The guitar case. I don't remember too clearly because I was a bit dazed. I suppose I must have opened the guitar case after I knocked the vase over. It's not a big deal though, right? The case was empty after all. As for why I opened the case, even I don't know. It looks like this really wasn't a very important point. Though this wastefulness is a familiar feeling by now that it's almost comforting. Anyway, I'll just go ahead and start cross-examination. Using any way to change the topic. A convenient escape for a weak man. You get off of my case and start going on to this guitars. I don't remember too clearly because I was a bit dazed. During your testimony just now, do you remember those events clearly in your mind? Well, you see... Are you sure you're the one who opened the guitar case? She's waiting for someone to tell her if she should answer or not. Her codependency is coming through, huh? Something I'd like to point out. I know we keep saying codependency, but that's not it. Codependency means two people rely on each other. This is just flat out dependency. I'm just going to point that out. Well, Mr. Andrews? Yes, it was me. I suppose I must have opened the guitar case after I knocked the vase over. She's getting nervous now. So you opened the guitar case then? Yes, well, maybe. Why did you open the guitar case? Huh? Mr. Corda's dead body was right there in front of you, wasn't it? I would think that the first thing you would do is call for help, not open a guitar case. As the witness has said multiple times, when she found the dead body, she was dazed. Maybe I was curious to know if the bright red guitar was alright or not. I thought maybe the criminal took it. Why would she care about the bright red guitar? But getting back on topic. It's not a big deal though, right? The case was empty after all. Was it really empty? I was just wondering if maybe when you opened the case, the guitar was still inside. How long have you been a lawyer, Mr. Wright? Have a little professionalism. The bright red guitar was found at the studio. These trials would have been over in half the time if you would just pay attention. Yes, pay more attention, Mr. Wright. Sorry. As for why I opened the case, I don't know. Was that because you were shocked and dazed at discovering the victim's body? Yes, that's probably it. I'm not going to get anywhere if I continue pressing her like this. The only way to make her talk is with evidence. I guess I should give it a try. Come on, Miss Phoenix. We can't afford to let up on her now. I wasn't planning on letting up, but she's at her weakest now, so this is our chance. Yeah, if we had a weapon to hit her with. I'm sure a weapon is hiding somewhere in the court record, waiting to be found. A weapon. Let's see. Guitar case. Guitar case was empty. As for why she opened the case, a weapon. Ha! Your Honor, what do you think of this witness' statement? I'm not sure I follow you. It clearly, contradicts the, I thought... You don't sound very sure, Mr. Wright. Objection denied. I don't think that won me any points with the judge. Okay. That's not it. So then... She must have had a reason. The case was empty. If the case was empty... let's see. Let's go over this again. Too clearly, she opened the guitar case after she knocked the vase over. Okay, so she knocked... Oh, really? Are you even paying attention? There is no way you were the one who opened the guitar case. Why would you say that? It's elementary, my dear. Because the only fingerprints on this guitar case were those of the victim. Ah. What is it, Miss Andrews? You shouldn't assume that I must have left fingerprints just because I touched the case. What do you mean? What if I were to tell you I was wearing gloves at the time? Gloves? But why would you be wearing gloves at the time? It was the night of the award ceremony. So of course I dressed up for the occasion. Yes, now that I remember, I'm almost sure I was wearing a pair of thin gloves. Oh, I see. Well, Mr. Wright, it seems the witness was wearing gloves at the scene of the crime. Gloves, huh? That's strange. You're wearing gloves? Isn't that a little strange? Why is it strange? Do you have something that would prove I was not wearing gloves at the time? Actually, I think I do. Take that! I have your proof right here. This wine glass. The wine glass? You left your fingerprints very clearly on this wine glass. Even if you took your gloves off when you poured yourself this glass of juice, wouldn't you think it was just a little strange that you put on your gloves back on just to open that guitar case? Order! 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 Looks like you hit the nail on the head this time. Huh? What do you mean? I believe the guitar case plays a very important role here. But it's just an empty case. I wonder if it really was empty, though. But the guitar. The bright red guitar was at the studio. Phoenix, drop all your presumptions. What was in the guitar case that was not the bright red guitar? You don't mean it was a bright white guitar? Wait, that's not right either. I admit it would be unnatural for someone to do that. So the witness was not wearing gloves, despite the fact that on the case. Your Honor, this is obviously the defense's usual misdirection tactic at work. Steer the court towards an unrelated topic and lull us all in his misguided... No, Your Honor. Please recall that Miss Andrews had testified that the vase fell onto the guitar case. That means that the case was closed when the crime took place. However, it was wide open to this photo of the crime scene. I'm sure that this guitar case has some relation to this murder. If you are so sure, Wright, then I'm sure you could somehow substantiate your outrageous claim, correct? Please enlighten us as to how the guitar case has anything to do with this murder. Can you do that, Mr. Wright? Well, let's suppose for a second that the bright red guitar was not the only thing that could have been in the case. The bright red guitar was not being the only thing. You don't mean to suggest that a bright black guitar was... So, you intend to push your theory that the case was not empty? Is that it, Wright? I wouldn't say something if I didn't intend to prove it. Deflate that head of yours. You haven't proven anything yet. Now then, let's have it. What was inside the case at the time of the murder? Inside of the case. What was inside of the case, I wonder? There's too many things that could have been inside. So, inside the case. Inside the case. What could have been inside the case? Could have been... Let's look at that thing again. What could have been inside the case? The case must have been there afterwards. And it's empty now. But it has Juan Corda's fingerprints, which are natural. Which means... I wonder... Take that! This is a photograph. Yes, but what is important is what is in this picture, Your Honor. It is in the picture. It doesn't take a genius to see what I mean. What I'm proposing is... Inside the guitar case was the Nickel Samurai, the hero's very own costume. What? Mr. Wright, explain yourself. Right, are you saying that the witness opened the guitar case to take out a costume? What insane point would there be to doing something like that? An insane point would be to wear the costume, of course. Miss Andrews put it on to hide her identity so she could make her escape. After all, you couldn't let anyone see you leave, could you, Miss Andrews? I refuse to accept your theory. Do you have anything to support such a preposterous idea? Just outside the door was an investigative photographer who was starving for a big scoop. And in the end, she managed to get this shot, correct? You mean this photo? That photo. Order! It looks like we've wandered into quite another mess again, haven't we? Nice job, Phoenix. Well, you know my strategy. Speak first, think later. So the real murderer was hiding inside the costume. But wait a second, Your Honor. The Nickel Samurai's costume would have been Master Man Guard's. Why would someone of the defendants be in the victim's room? And inside the guitar case, of all places? True, this is a little baffling. Mr. Wright, the court would like to hear your thoughts. What is the Nickel Samurai costume doing inside the guitar case? There's a spare costume. Mr. Guard did not take his costume off during the break period. In that case, the costume we were talking about is a spare one. What? Then, are you saying that on the night of the murder, there were 2 Nickel Samurai costumes in the Gatewater Hotel? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. And how do you explain the costume that was inside the guitar case? It would be that the victim himself had planned to bring the spare to the ceremony. But why? The victim, Mr. Corda, was the legitimate ninja. Why would he secretly bring the Nickel Samurai spare costume with him? What could be the reason behind such a peculiar act? So that's what he intended. What are you mumbling to yourself about now? Have you just been rambling all this time without any sense of inner monologue? No, I just... Mr. Wright, please explain yourself. Why do you think the victim had the Nickel Samurai spare costume? Phoenix, are you sure you can explain this one? Think carefully before you answer. And then answer with gusto. I believe in you. Alright, this is what I think. The reason the victim brought the Nickel Samurai spare costume to the hotel was... he had a speech. What is this? On the night of the murder, after the stage show, the Nickel Samurai was going to hold a special press conference. A press conference? Yes, the Nickel Samurai was supposed to confess something at this conference. I heard about this as well. For once, you're not making something up, right? But what struck me as strange was that Mr. On Guard himself said that he had no idea he was supposed to be holding a press conference that night. But how could that be? The way I see it, that can only mean one thing. The conference was set up by none other than the victim, Mr. Juan Corda himself. The victim? Yes. The spare Nickel Samurai costume was prepared for that very conference. Mr. Corda was going to hold this press conference as the Nickel Samurai. He was going to dress up as the Nickel Samurai and hold a conference? But why would the victim do such a thing? That's something I don't quite know yet. However, what I'm concerned with right now is what he intended to reveal at that ceremony. The Nickel Samurai was going to confess something. By confess, I'd wager he was going to reveal something about himself. Which means that Juan Corrida, posing as the Nickel Samurai, was going to speak about Matt on Guard. Yes, I guess that is what it would mean. But if that's the case, that's not a confession. That's public disclosure. Miss Andrews, I can see why you're pros at what you do. Pardon me? Yes, just as you say, the press conference was set up by Juan. She knew? Miss Andrews, please offer us an explanation for this. I was the one he asked to help set it up. And the person who prepared the second costume for him, that was also me. You? Juan just had bet everything on this Jamma Ninja this year. And if he lost the Grand Prix, he was going to make sure Matt was going down with him. That's what he thought anyway. He was going to ruin him, huh? It looked like somehow Juan had on his hands a secret so powerful that it would destroy Matt's acting career had it been revealed. What? And do you know what the secret of Mr. On Guard is, Mr. Andrews? That's something only Juan knew. I don't know what it is. Oh, I see. I've probably been coming off quite suspicious to everyone, but that's gotta be expected. I've been trying to protect Matt, after all. Protect Matt on Guard? And yet again, another strange bit of truth comes to light, it seems. Miss Andrews, if you could, please tell us the truth about your behavior. Yes, Your Honor. I understand. I'm just protecting Matt. From the moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer. Matt had to kill Juan no matter what. And he didn't have an alibi for what he was doing at the time of the murder. My thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course, the button and the knife. But I'm Matt's manager, so I felt I had to protect him. And this does account for everything. Well, I am the logical type. We're finally seeing her true self. She's more nervous than a scared rabbit. If there's no objections, I feel I can pass a verdict based on this testimony. Now then, Mr. Wright, if you please. Looks like somehow everything has swung to the opposite end of the scale again. It just means I have to put my weight onto this and turn this logic upside down. Don't protect Matt. Well, maybe you should. From the moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer. Would you say that your intuition's speaking to you? Don't confuse my methods for reasoning with your own. If you want to prove that someone did something, you need 3 things. 3 things? A motive, an opportunity to commit the crime, and finally, decisive evidence. And if you think these 3 things through, the answer comes quite clear. You should have already known that, Phoenix. They don't teach this to us in school. At least not from what I remember. May I continue now? Matt had to kill Juan no matter what. So would you say this need came from the press conference? Yes. Do you know why Juan chose that event and that hotel for the conference? Because that was when he could cause the most damage to the public's beloved Matt on Guard. And you knew from this plan, didn't you, Miss Andrews? Yes. Because I was the one who set up the conference and prepared the costume. But I'm sure Mr. On Guard himself didn't know anything about the press conference. Oh, really? Can you show me any proof that he didn't know about the press conference? Anyway, the important thing is that the information was not in your testimony. Yes, I agree. Miss Andrews, please correct your testimony, if you please. Grasping at straws now, are we, Mr. Wright? I knew what his motive was, but I don't have any way to prove him right. Has Mr. On Guard done something to hurt or betray you personally? Why do you ask? You were the one who helped Mr. Corda with his press conference. And that event was supposed to bring down Mr. On Guard, yet you still helped out! The person on trial right now is Mr. On Guard, right? What the witness was thinking, helping the victim with his plan, is none of your concern. In any case, this means the defendant had a motive to kill. Why do I keep doing this to myself? And he didn't have an alibi for what he was doing at the time of the murder. But you already testified earlier that the man on guard was taking a nap in his room? Are you telling me now that that too was a lie, so you could cover for Mr. On Guard? I'm not telling you anything of the sort. But when I went to get him in the show, he honestly was sleeping. However, as to whether he was sleeping the entire time, that I cannot say. I was too busy setting up the stage at the time. I keep trying, but I can find no flaws in what Miss Andrews has said. I can't say the same for some people in this court, however. The judge is glaring straight at me. He's glaring at you, smart guy. My thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course. The button and the knife. You can hardly call the knife decisive evidence. The fingerprints on the knife could very well be the clever camouflage. Then, what about the button? The button? It's clear from the crime scene that the victim and the murderer fought. And during the fight, the killer ripped the button from Jammin Ninja's costume. You're talking about this button, right? The button was found in the pleats of Matakama. Isn't that correct? I could think this makes it very decisive evidence. Looks like you were outfoxed again, Mr. Wright. Anyway, the knife doesn't prove a thing. Please fix your testimony. I can't stand the sight of a man who can't gracefully accept his defeat. Thank goodness Mia can still look at me. With an icy stare, yes. Miss Andrews, from Wright's to Wright's sake, please add your information to your testimony. That button was torn off in Juan during the fight with Matt. And how do you know that? When the ends of the threads on the button and the costume were matched up, they were found to fit together perfectly, or so I heard. I've heard that before too. But why would Miss Andrews know about this case down to the fine detail? Don't look at me like that. Just because I'm prepared and you're not. I thought I had it this time for sure. If there's anything to trip her up on, it has to be here. But where and what? But I'm Matt's manager, so I felt that I had to protect him. But what you really did was stab the guy in the back, didn't you? And at the worst possible time. Who's to say she really stabbed the guy in the back, as you put it? This witness could have disclosed things about Mr. On Guard at any time. Why then would she wait until a very large audience before doing so? Same reason why Mr. Corda planned such an elaborate conference. Miss Andrews wanted to cause On Guard as much damage as she possibly could. The witness bears ill will towards the defendant. This isn't the Phoenix Wright Wax Philosophical Power Hour. And please, stop slandering the witness. As expected, Miss Andrews' testimony seems pretty solid. Really? Because to me, it sounds a little wishy-washy. Wishy-washy? Well, I guess we'll see if I press a little more. You should know this by now. But you'll need strong, decisive evidence to make her talk. Got it, Chief. I'm going to pin you down this time, Miss Andrews. Okay. So let's see what we got. Okay. Apparently he has a motive, but she doesn't know what just yet. And she knows about the... Let's see. She knows about the button, that's for sure. Let's see. I want to go check something. I just want to quickly check. Because there was something strange about it. Okay. I'll admit, that's pretty plausible for what it looks like. But there's something that everyone's been forgetting ever since this trial started. The autopsy. Everyone forgot about the autopsy report. They always forget about this because it's so last minute. This is the victim's autopsy report. It clearly states that the cause of death was strangulation by a scarf. Strangulation? The knife stab into the victim was done after the victim had already died. And what does that mean? Let's examine the evidence. This button was the victim's blood on it. Well, which would mean that it was ripped off the costume. When? After the knife was stabbed into the victim. Exactly. Which means... Is it possible that this button was torn off during the victim's final struggle? Because the victim was strangled to death in that fight! That's right, Miss Andrews. There is no way this button was ripped off during the struggle. This button was consciously pulled off the victim's already dead body. Order! Order! What is the meaning? What is the meaning of this, Wright? So what if the button was torn off the body after the victim was already died? What does that change? Let me ask you one simple question, Mr. Edgeworth. Why was the button torn off? What purpose did that serve? What purpose? We now know this button was not torn off during the fight, so the murderer took the time and effort to purposely rip this off the victim's body. That would mean that the murderer has something in mind, wouldn't it? Mr. Wright, does this mean you know what the murderer wanted to do with this button? What was it? Obviously to pin it on Edgard. There was only one logical reason for doing something like that. That was to pin the crime on Mr. On Guard. There was no way anyone would put a bloody button in their own pants. That's right, Mr. On Guard was set up. By the real killer, of course. And the real murderer is? Well, Mr. Wright, who in the world is the real killer then? Finally. I can't believe I managed to bring this trial all the way up to this point. Phoenix, you can't let your guard down just yet. Not until the very end. The real killer, the person who planned to frame Mr. On Guard, is... Adrian Andrews. Miss Adrian Andrews. I choose you! You are Mr. Corda's killer! What? What? Order! 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 Mr. Wright! This is a very grave matter. Do you have any evidence that supports your charge? Any evidence? All of the evidence points to Miss Andrews. Oh, what? How preposterous! You can't stick any of that on me! I can't. Can I? Would you care to test me? Then what about this knife? The knife was used to stab the victim after he had already been strangled to death. It was used to throw suspicion onto Mr. On Guard, naturally. A knife covered in defendant's fingerprints could only be taken from his room. After the only one who had dinner with him and knew which knife to take was you. Then what about the button that was found in Miss On Guard's Arcana? That button was removed from the victim's body after he had already died. The only people who could have done so were the person who found his body, or the killer. However, if Mr. On Guard was the real killer, there's no way he would have put such an incriminating evidence on his own Akama. The only person who could have put this button under Mr. Enguarde's Akama is the person who went to wake him up from his nap, which is you yet again, Miss Andrews. I see. What about the other guitar case? That is also another piece of evidence that incriminates Miss Andrews. That costume was to hide the real killer's intent as they fled the crime scene. Now, who could have known that there was just such a costume inside the guitar's case? It could only have been the person who prepared the costume for the victim. And that person is you, Miss Adrian Andrews. No, But Miss Andrews' fingerprints were nowhere to be found on the guitar case. And this was you who proved that she was not wearing gloves at the time. That's right. That's because she didn't intend on leaving any prints. If anyone had found out that she had touched the case, they would have asked her why. So to avoid leaving any prints, she used a towel or something else to open it. But the glass of tomato juice was a different story. Miss Andrews purposefully left her fingerprints on the glass to show that, yes, indeed, she was the classic dazed discoverer of the dead body. And to top it all off, there's this photo. A photo of the killer as they exited the scene of the crime. No reasonable person on Earth would believe this is Nickel Samurai as man on guard. He would be too much short for his own costume if it were him. Speaking of how tall people are, Miss Andrews, you're also kind of short in stature, are you not? Please, stop. Well, how about it, Miss Andrews? I've got her this time. Miss Andrews? I refuse to testify. What was that? There's a law. It says that I can't be forced to testify about something if I incriminate myself. Oh. Well, yes. If you're absolutely correct, Miss Andrews, the law does provide us with a way to avoid self-incrimination by allowing a witness to not testify if their testimony can cause damage to themselves. What? Pleading the fifth is not something most people would think to do on the spot. Actually, thinking back on yesterday's in Mr. Enguarde's room. Miss Andrews! Yes? Think hard about what we just discussed. Understood? Alright. That's it. That's when Francisca planted this idea into her head. She must have told Mr. Andrews to not testify if things look bad. You did a good job proving everything up to this point, Phoenix. But there's still one thing you haven't done. Something I haven't done? What's wrong, Wright? Are you finished already? Run out of evidence? What is so humorous, Mr. Edgeworth? I'm sure you realize this is all well, Your Honor. But everything the good lawyer here has proven up to this point is meaningless. Well, what? Everything you have proven is circumstantial. Circumstantial? Yes, circumstantial. You've yet to prove a single piece of definitive proof. Proof that Miss Andrews did in fact harbor a wish to murder Mr. Corda. Oh. Miss Andrews, did you want to kill Mr. Corda? I believe this may lead me to incriminating myself, so I may well abstain from answering. But Miss Andrews, if you do that, it would be the same as admitting your guilt, don't you think? Maybe so, or maybe not. This is nothing to prove either way. Besides, you don't even know what crime I would be guilty of due to my silence. No! She's taking the defiant attitude again! Mia, what should we do? Somehow, we've landed in the worst possible situation. I think we have reached a certain conclusion at this point in time. Miss Adrian Andrews has refused to testify. And the defense's theory is that the actual murderer has not been fully substantiated with solid definitive proof. But that's not true! In this situation, there is only one thing this court can do. And That is to declare a recess. Recess? I request that both the prosecution and the defense look further into this matter. And that tomorrow's trial... Tomorrow? We don't have it tomorrow. If we don't get not guilty verdict today, then... Please wait, Your Honor. That's not necessary. The trial? Please continue the trial. What are you sweating for? Your client is getting one more day to live, isn't he? That's not it. It's not about that. Edgeworth, I know you are the one real... I know you know who the real killer is. Please, let the trial continue. If I don't get the verdict, then Maya... But it's impossible to continue as long as the witness refuses to testify. Now then, this quote is... It is not impossible for this trial to continue. Mr. Andrews, what are you... It's true Miss Adrian holds the right against self-incrimination. However, if the topic of conversation was something unrelated to whatever she may be guilty of, then she has no right to withhold testimony. Yes, that is very true, but... Actually, there's one little thing I'm curious about. Miss Andrews, when you found the victim's dead body, you poured yourself a glass of juice. Yes, and? I can't help but think how unnatural that is. Usually when one finds a body, they're shaken up, not stirring a glass of juice. So my actions were unusual, but I've already... Before you speak, I want to state that if you have a reason behind your actions, I would like you to testify to that effect. Testify? Your Honor, I would like to request that the witness testify again as to what happened when she first discovered the victim's body. Whatever we find in this testimony should in no way implicate the witness. I don't know what it is about Edgeworth today, but I can't get a good read off him. Is he friend or foe? I just don't know. The court acknowledges the prosecution's request. Miss Andrews, if you please. What? The glass of juice. I didn't really pour it for myself. I was surprised when I walked into the room and I saw it in a messy state. And one, he's sitting slumped over and tired looking in the corner. When I saw him sitting like that, I thought that he was dead. Didn't cross my mind. And to be honest, I thought he had just fainted or something, so I went to pour him some juice. And when I realized that he was dead, that was when I knocked the flower vase over. So you poured that glass of juice for the victim. Why didn't you say so in your earlier testimony? I didn't think I needed to include something so trivial. Phoenix, please be careful here. If you can't find anything wrong with this testimony, then there's nothing left. I know. Edgeworth, what the heck is going on in that brain of yours? Now then, Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination. What made you do this, Edgeworth? That glass of juice. I didn't really pour it for myself. But there wasn't anyone else in the room, right? Of course not. Then, who did you pour it for? Mr. Wright, there's a rhyme and a reason for everything. Can you wait just a little longer for it to be revealed for you? In other words, Wright, be quiet and listen. Precisely! Could have said it better myself. I was surprised when I walked into the room and saw it was a messy state. No, go back. I actually don't hate Adrian Andrews. She seems like a nice person. Kinda. So, it was a mess? Are you sure it wasn't messy because of your fight with Mr. Korda? I understand your frustrations at not being able to prove your theory. However, before you go accusing people of crimes, go find yourself some evidence. And then, what did you see next, witness? And one, he was sitting slumped over and looking tired over in the corner. Slumped over? Yes, He was just sitting there with his head tilted forward, eyes closed. He really looked like he was sleeping. Is it just me, or did that right there sound a little odd? When I saw him sitting like that, the thought of it was dead didn't cross my mind. When did that cross your mind? I thought maybe he smashed up everything in anger because he lost the Grand Prix. And then felt tired after his rampage, so he decided to take a nap. Anyway, that's what I thought. I see. So you didn't think he was dead at all? To be honest, I thought he had just fainted or something. So I went to pour him some juice. You thought he fainted? I thought he was asleep at first. But then, the room was in a messy state. I thought maybe he'd gotten into a fight with someone. And that's when you went to pour the glass of juice? Yes, he always has a hard time waking up. So one always has a glass of tomato juice to drink. I see. And after that, what happened next? When I realized that he was dead, that's when I knocked over the flower vase. And how did you come to realize that he was, in fact, dead? I shook him over and over, but I never got a response. So I set the glass down on the dresser and tried to take his pulse. I wasn't shocked. It staggered backward and knocked back the flower vase. So that's what happened. Yes. This is what it all comes down to. Huh? This is the absolute end for both sides. And Adrian is letting her guard down. Phoenix, now is our best chance yet to kill the prosecution's case. Isn't that a bit harsh? Miss Andrews, will you tell us the truth this time? Okay. Just thought he was slumped over, tired looking in the corner. Let's look at this slumped over Juan Corrida. Let's look at this. How about you? Your Honor, that statement contradicts this evidence. It does? I don't see anything anything contradictory. Really? Objection denied. Try to think before you make accusations, Mr. Wright. Whoops, that didn't go so well. Saw him sitting like that. Oh wait, like this? I knew I had to use it on one of them. So you honestly didn't think he was dead when you found him? No, not at all. Even though this is what you saw when you discovered the body? Ah! What is the meaning of this? Isn't this obvious, Your Honor? There's a knife sticking straight out of Mr. Corda's chest. Anyone who saw this scene would have immediately thought that here was a dead man. Well, you see? I doubt a single person in the world would mistake this for someone who fainted. And then so nonchalantly pour something to drink. Your point is, Miss Andrews, your testimony just now, it was all one giant lie. And your lie was proven one thing very clearly. That you are the real killer. No! Looks like the defense has somehow brought the ugly truth to light. The defendant, Mr. Matt on guard, is not guilty after all. But that's impossible! You're wrong! Miss Andrews, try to have some composure. It wasn't me. It wasn't me, I tell you. It was Matt. I swear, he's the one who killed Juan. But you were the one who refused to testify. And your reason for not doing so is because you might end up incriminating yourself. That's because... Miss Andrews, I will give you one last chance. What exactly are you hiding that may incriminate you? I refuse to testify. What? Then there is no need for this court to continue any further. Mr. Matt on Guard's innocence has been clearly demonstrated. Is it over? Have we found the truth at last? What's wrong, Phoenix? Usually the real killer confesses his or her guilt. And now that I think about it, this is the first time someone hasn't. Now then, I would like to hand down my verdict for Mr. Matt on Guard. Huh? Your Honor, the prosecution feels that it would be premature to pass down a verdict at this time. What? The reason is quite simple. This witness has yet to speak the absolute real truth. What? The absolute real truth? What are you... Witness, don't you understand yet? Huh? Yeah, I don't know who planted this silly idea in your head. But as long as you protect yourself through your silence, Man on Guard will go free. And in his place, you will become the guilty party. That's a lie! I don't believe you! What? I was told if I spoke, then it would be all over, and Matt would never be declared guilty. What in the world is she talking about? Has she lost it? I can't speak about it. I'm too scared. It's Franziska von Karma. Huh? Don't you remember, Phoenix? Miss Andrews lives on gripping tightly onto the worlds of another. Because she doesn't have the strength to believe in herself. Then right now, Miss Andrews is. Yesterday, she was tossed to the lifesaver by Miss Von Karma. Don't say a word, no matter what happens. If you do, Matt on Guard will be acquitted. Miss Andrews undyingly believes in those words right now and clings onto them. Then, what should we do? This is the first time I've ever come across anything like this. But Miss Andrews has to be the killer, right? All we have to do now is to get her not guilty. That's my only priority. It wasn't me. I'm begging you. Please, believe in me. I didn't go on. Help. Please, someone help me. Mr. Wright. Yes, Your Honor. The court can't continue like this. Therefore, I'd like to hear what you intend to do. What I intend to do? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? Right. I suggest you think very carefully about this. Think about what this witness did and what she did not do. And think about who is the real mastermind behind this crime. Who's the real mastermind? Isn't that obvious? There's no one else it could be except the woman crying here over there. Right? Come now! What will you do? What kind of man are you, Mr. Phoenix Wright? Not that kind of man. If I have to win a complete acquittal today, there's no way around that. But I can't bring myself to do it like this. Not when she's making a face like that. Miss Andrews, I would like to know what you were really hiding. Mr. Wright, are you sure you want to know what are you sure you know what you're doing? Sure, Mr. On Guard would have an acquittal, but in this place, you would be found guilty. Is this how you really want this trial to end? Be quiet. How dare you? You're trying to trick me. That's enough. I commend you for trying, Mr. Edgeworth. However, it's clear the defense's theory is the truth. You're wrong. Such a shame. I had hoped things wouldn't come to this. However, what is it, Mr. Edgeworth? Miss Andrews, since you're absolutely refusing to testify, it falls on my shoulders to disclose this to the court. Stop. Mr. Edgeworth? This witness! How should I put this? She has an illness. What? And because of this illness, She has tried to commit suicide in the past. Stop! Please stop! No matter how much you want to hide it, it's no use. I have the evidence right here. That's the second part of the suicide report. The suicide report. What will you do now, witness? You know what I'm about to do, don't you? I will now reveal to the court the true nature of the pitiful woman known as Adrian Andrews. The secret of her codependent nature. Having other people know about it scares her more than anything else in the world. Please stop! I beg you! If people find out, I'll... If you're going to say you'll choose death, that is no concern to me. Edgeworth, how can you be so cold? However, before you die, I will pull the truth from your breathing lips. No matter what I have to do. So, will you tell the truth to the court yourself, or shall I? Either is fine with me. I'll talk, but please, help me. Nothing matters anymore. I'll talk. When I first saw him, I really thought he had fainted, honest. When I realized he was dead, that was when I formulated my plan. Once I made sure that no one was in the hallway, I made a dash back to Matt's room. And then, I stabbed Juan's dead body with a knife and ripped off the button. That's when I finished and was returning to Matt's room. I had a bit of an inconvenience. That's why I ended up using the nickel samurai costume. Stabbed the body with the knife? But why would you do that? Isn't it obvious? To pin the blame on a certain person. A certain cowardly man. What do you mean by all of this? It might take the court a little while to understand, but... This is the truth. The real killer is Matt. The scumbag of a man. I'll never forgive him. He's trying to escape his guilt again. Just like last time. Last time? So, Miss Andrews stabbed the victim, Juan Corda, in the chest with the knife. However, she didn't do it with the murder in mind. She did it with the intent of framing Matt on guard for the murder. And this is her crime. What? How is this possible? I mean, wasn't Miss Andrews supposed to be the real murderer? Mr. Wright, please get over your shock and commence the cross-examination. But wait, what? Wait? When I first saw him, I really thought he had fainted, honest. But you could tell from the state of the room was in that there must have been a fight. Are you telling me the truth when you say you did not know he was dead? He had a scarf tied around his neck. But that scarf was part of a Jama Ninja's costume, so... I didn't think anything about it was strange. His head was also tilted down a bit, so I couldn't see his face that well. That's why I thought I'd wake him up, and then went to pour the juice. When I realized he was dead, that was when I formulated my plan. What's this plan you had? I knew right away the murderer was Matt. I knew because Juan, he was going to expose Matt's weakest weak point to the world. So Matt did this to stop Juan and silence it for good. That's when I thought I should forge some evidence and pin this crime on Matt. So the forged pieces of evidence were the knife and the button. The first thing that came to mind was to plant a knife. Once I made sure that there was no one in the hallway, I made a dash back to Matt's room. So that you couldn't get the knife, correct? The knife Matt used at dinner had his fingerprints all over it. I thought if I used that, then the police would certainly turn their eyes towards him. Matt was napping with his costume on at the time. I slipped in, took the knife, and returned to the scene of the crime. And then, I stabbed Juan's dead body with a knife, and ripped off the button. So you were the one who stabbed the victim with that knife? gives me goosebumps to think about it now. What a horrible thing I did. But at the time, I couldn't control my own body. It moved on its own. Then, when I stabbed one's dead body, I suddenly realized something. If I used the button somehow, I could make Matt look even more suspect.
So you thought to rip off one of the buttons and to plant it in Mr. Enguarde's Hakama?
And yes, that's what I had planned to do. But things never go that smoothly, do they? Just when I finished and was returning to Matt's room, I had a bit of an inconvenience.
An inconvenience?
There was a woman with a camera at the ready, loitering in the hallway.
I'm willing to bet my spikes on it that it was Lotta.
There was also a woman with a ray gun in the ready, pacing back and forth.
That's Miss Old Bag for you.
It had already been caught and made into a big scoop for a certain weekly tabloid once. So I couldn't very well go out looking like myself and get caught again. And that's why I ended up using the Nickel Samurai costume.
You were the one who prepared this costume, weren't you?
Yes, I took it from Global Studios. I also put it into Juan's guitar case the day before the award ceremony.
You did this in preparation for the press conference, correct?
Yes, Juan wanted to wear that costume and hold a press conference in it. He was going to disclose Matt's big secret there.
And what's the secret?
That I don't know. Anyway, I thought that if I were to leave Juan's room in the Nickel Samurai costume, that people would think that Matt was the real murderer. I was very careful not to leave any fingerprints when I opened the guitar case. I absolutely did not want anyone to know about the costume.
I think we've heard enough. So, after that, you went back to Matt Enguarde's room and planted the button?
Into Matt's Hakama? Yes. After that, I folded up the costume I was wearing and put it into a bag. Then I snuck out to the hotel and got rid of it.
My word! What does all this mean?
Mr. Edgeworth, is it? The real criminal. It's Matt Enguarde! Yesterday, that woman prosecutor sat me down for a talk.
Francisca, huh?
She said that I should, under no circumstance, confess what I have done. That if I just kept quiet, then Matt would be found guilty for sure. I had no choice but to believe in her words.
What this witness has done is clearly unlawful. However, as long as her testimony stands, we can be certain she is not the real killer. Wait, Your Honor. The defense still...
Right.
It's pointless. At this point in time, it is not possible to indict Miss Andrews on anything. Yes, exactly. There isn't a single piece of evidence that points to her as the murderer. The cross-examination of this witness is over, and so is today's trial. You couldn't establish the witness as the culprit. Please let it go, Mr. Wright.
But...
Mr. Edgeworth, please place Miss Andrews under arrest for further questioning. Understood, Your Honor. The prosecution will arrange for her detention immediately. That's all. The court is adjourned for today.
No. 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 Today's trial. It's over! And I didn't win an acquittal!
Witness, would you mind if I asked you something?
Huh? Edgeworth? When is it?
Before you leave court today, I wondered if I might look at one thing. That card in your hand. It had my interest for quite some time now.
When exactly is it? Oh, this? Mr. Wright also asked about this. Although I didn't remember at the time you asked me about it, Mr. Wright. I remember just now. I found this in the room on that day.
The room? That day?
Yes. I found this card when I discovered Juan's body. It was lying there, right next to him.
You found that card next to the victim's body?
I suppose I must have unconsciously slipped it into my pocket. But it's not as if this card has any relevance to Juan's murder, right?
Yeah, I guess not.
But it's still a strange card, if you ask me.
But as far as a clue to this case, I don't see why.
Hold it! Witness! That card! Give it to me! Hurry!
Edgeworth! Do you have any idea what you have stupidly yet inadvertently done?
This! I can't believe you hid this from me all this time! I didn't mean to! What is this all about? I've never seen such an emotional Edgeworth in my entire life! That card! What in the world is it? What does it mean?
Well, I guess we'll leave it for next time.
Oh, Maya. What's gonna happen to Maya? Oh. I didn't get the acquittal. Please be safe, Maya.
Sin, this is Let's Play Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney Justice for All. I'm Luigi Fan 64D. Let's hope we can get some freedom from Maya. See ya.